Hey, so I was listening to some speakers with regard to the very, very slow nature of initial and reconsideration stages with the SSA. And I can't deny that it is crazy long. Some people are hearing that they're not even going to get an adjudicator on initial or on recon for like 8 months. That's how short staffed they are. And I know that to be true, that they are short staffed, between COVID and the Great Resignation, and that some people just don't like to work when they can, or, didn't want that job and got a different one. Whatever the case may be, we are really short staffed, and therefore, in my opinion, significant hiring has to be done. And of course, that depends on funding. And right now, the government doesn't seem to care to fund this administration, the Social Security Administration, in the manner that it needs to run smoothly for the people of the United States of America and other workers who have insured status, such as green card holders, visa holders, etc. So I was reminded of a few years back, and I don't know who all remembers this, but the wait for an ALJ hearing was what was terrible. Initial and recon were, they would give you that 4-month estimate, and it could be a little more or a little less, but it was pretty good compared to now. But the problem was the ALJ hearings, the wait for a hearing, once you actually got denied through initial and recon and then appealed for ALJ hearing. So the time from appealing to getting a hearing was astronomical. I regularly saw 2-year waits, although I know that that wasn't the official average. So, and then I recall that not in the current administration of the federal government, but the one prior to that, was able to manage to change that. I remember going from, and I want to say this was about 2019, I saw it, going from, a year and a half to appealing for ALJ hearing and getting a hearing in like 4 or 5 months, a hearing scheduled, which, by the way, was a double-edged sword that isn't really part of this video. But, sometimes you got to be careful what you wish for when you want speed, because if your case, you have not done a sufficient job building it up, now you're probably not going to have time to. And you could be rushing an ALJ hearing only to be rushing an ALJ denial that perhaps wouldn't have been if it wasn't so speedy. But as a general rule, we want our administrative processes to go as fast as reasonably possible, with proper tools and proper staffing. And so I decided I wanted to take a look at, now that we know initial and recon are in the weeds terribly, what's going on with ALJ, and what I wanted to look at the history. Now, the SSA has a page where you can look up the hearing times in each hearing office. It goes month by month for each year, and it's each hearing office. And there are like 168 of them, or I think I was seeing anywhere between 167 and 169 hearing offices. So I wasn't going to go month through month from, say, 2015 to the present for all of them. So I figured I will look at the last, just as a gauge. I was looking at the last fiscal month, which would be September, because that's the end of the fiscal year for the Social Security Administration. And I'm going to try to find this. And no, it's not going to let me do that. Okay. Let me move it someplace else. And I just wanted to compare them, the annual, say, September of 2015, what was the average wait for an ALJ hearing? September of 2016, just for that month, only because I didn't want to take 12 times as much time, because I'm actually doing this in my own spare time, because I get curious and I'm a real geek like that. So I made myself this horribly ugly spreadsheet. But anyway, and I'll get you the link to, I'll put it down below, the link to the page where you can actually do all the searching yourself. But anyway, it was pretty interesting It was kind of how I recall it. Imagine that. So in 2015, according to the SSA's numbers, if I've got this correct, at least for September of 2015, the average wait for a hearing for the hearings that were had that month. So it's not, it doesn't include the ones that are pending that month, but for all the hearings that were had, how long did those people have to wait? The average was 15.5 months. So that's what, a year and a quarter. 2016, it got worse. 17.7 months of wait for the people that had hearings in that particular month in 2017. And again, I'm just using September because I didn't want to go through and have to do this 12 times and then average them all out. 2017 went up again to 19 months, over a month longer in wait. That was 2017 for the people that had hearings then. So of course their hearing when they filed was probably 2+ years before that. Then look what happens in 2018. It drops to 17.3 months of wait. So the hearings that occurred in September of 2018, those claimants didn't have to wait the 19 months on average that was the prior year in 17, but it was down to 17.3, which is actually below the 2016 rate. And then what happens in 2019? It drops further. So they're speeding things up here. Now, remember, they brought in a bunch more ALJs. And I think that administration also changed, I think simplified with much criticism, but also, of course, there would be much accolades, I'm sure, but you might not see those in the paper, to bring in more ALJs and all that. So, and although I have to say, I can't seem to find firm, easy to read numbers on how many ALJs have been hired every year, how many have left. So what is the net? I'd like to see that. So again, 2019, the number dropped to 14.3 months of wait from what had been 17.3, which had been a drop from the one before of 19. 2020, it dropped even further to 10.3 months of wait. And keep in mind, September of 2020, that includes a lot of months during the worst times of COVID. So these numbers, I mean, look at that. 3 years of reduced wait times for ALJ hearings. That happens to coincide with the years of 2018 to 2020. And even 2021, whose cases were obviously pending and being worked on at the ALJ level and below during 18, 19, and 20. That wait was practically the same as 2020, but a hair less at 10.2 months. So what happened in 2022, which would be, remember if they're all there for 2 months and this is the end part, it went up in 2022 to 13.3 months. And look at 2023, we just finished it. And now our wait is back up to 16.2 months of wait for every claimant seeking a hearing. It's a real shame. When something works, sometimes I wish they just wouldn't screw around with it. And if it comes to needing more funding to hire more ALJs, because I think they're at a very, very, very low amount again, our government's just got to buck up. They say we have plenty of money to send everywhere else. They don't send it to the very infrastructure. And I'd say SSA and the SSD program, SSI program, and Social Security retirement are definitely part of the infrastructure of our country. So anyway, there you have it, guys. The ups and downs of the waits people suffer waiting for their hearing after they've gone through initial and recon, and then they have to wait this extra time. Again, sometimes the wait can actually save people who had really weak cases, particularly pro se people or people with representatives who don't actually work up their case, because that gives them time to actually do what should have been done all along. But that's not really the answer, is it? The answer is we want to start with a strong case, know how to build your evidence before you even file it. If you're still working, you can start building your evidence while you're still working, even if you can't file at that moment. And, have these processes come back to some normalized rate. We'd like to see hearings within 6 months of filing, perhaps. Back to what it was approaching. And I know in my area, it was pretty good back in the 1920 timeframe. Yeah, it was kind of shocking, actually. I was so used to waiting for a very long time. And I was willing to take a case that had just filed their own appeal for a hearing. When they shorten up, I am less prone to do that. But now that I see that these wait times are growing again, maybe I will take those, because there will be time for me to give my person direction, have them follow those directions, so we can actually have that win that they deserve. It's frustrating when you come in late in the day because a claimant decided to go pro se, then they want someone at the last minute, but we can't really do too much. There's not a lot of help that can be done. You can't follow advice and go get an MRI when you have to wait 4 months for an MRI or for insurance approval, right? So it's best to have all that advice about which specialist you need to be getting your tickets to well in advance. Okay. Anyway, that's some of the stats there in a roundabout way. I'll put the link to the page so you can go do every month for every year if you want. Yeah, it looks like the great improvement we saw from 2018 to 2020 that even extended into 21 is no more. It's a shame, but that's what happens. All right, guys, I will chat with you later, and have a great weekend.